Sometimes the most expensive lies are the ones we tell ourselves about love. The rain drummed against the coffee shop window as Amelia Rose Montgomery clutched her sketchpad, her honey-brown eyes darting toward the door every few seconds. Her fingers traced nervous patterns across the worn leather cover, a habit she'd developed during her college years when anxiety threatened to overwhelm her organized Virgo mind. "You're going to wear a hole in that thing," laughed her best friend Cassidy, sliding into the booth across from her. "Relax, Mel. It's just a blind date, not a job interview." Amelia tucked a strand of her chestnut hair behind her ear, the natural golden highlights catching the warm cafe lighting. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, a soft cream cardigan over dark jeans, comfortable ballet flats, and a delicate handmade bracelet she'd crafted during one of her restless evenings. Nothing too fancy, nothing that screamed desperation. "That's exactly the problem," Amelia murmured, unconsciously checking the time on her phone. "The last blind date you set me up with turned out to be married. The one before that was only interested in, well, you know what he was interested in." The memory stung. 3 relationships in 2 years, each one ending the same way. Men who saw her kindness as weakness, her trust as naivety. The walls around her heart had grown taller with each disappointment, brick by careful brick. "This one's different," Cassidy insisted, her voice carrying that infectious optimism that had gotten them both through college. "My coworker swears by him, says he's a single dad, works with his hands totally down to earth, and he specifically asked for someone genuine, someone who wouldn't care about his bank account." Amelia almost laughed at the irony. Her bank account consisted of her teaching salary from Jefferson Elementary, weekend art classes she taught at the community center, and the small earnings from selling her handmade jewelry online. Genuine was all she could afford to be. The bell above the door chimed and Amelia's breath caught. The man walking in was nothing like she'd expected. Tall, easily 6'2", with dark hair that looked like he'd run his fingers through it, and slate blue eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. He wore simple jeans and a navy Henley, work boots that had actually seen work, but something about the way he carried himself suggested depths she couldn't quite read. Their eyes met across the crowded cafe, and she felt that flutter in her chest, the one she'd tried so hard to suppress. He smiled, a genuine expression that reached his eyes, and started walking toward her table. "Amelia?" His voice was warm, slightly gravelly, with just a hint of a Boston accent. "I'm Ted." She stood suddenly self-conscious about her height next to his, and shook his offered hand. His grip was firm but gentle, calloused from real work. "Nice to meet you, Ted. I'll leave you two to get acquainted," Cassidy said with a knowing wink, gathering her purse. "Mel, I'll text you later. Ted, be nice to my girl." As her friend disappeared into the Seattle drizzle, Amelia found herself alone with this stranger who somehow didn't feel like a stranger at all. Ted, she assumed it was short for Theodore, gestured to the booth. "So," he said, sliding in across from her, "Cassidy tells me you're an artist and a teacher. That sounds like a dangerous combination. All that creativity and patience rolled into one person." Despite her nerves, Amelia found herself smiling. "Dangerous how? You probably see potential in everyone, even when they can't see it in themselves." His eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. "That's a superpower, but it can also get you into trouble with people who don't deserve your faith in them." The observation was so accurate, it took her breath away. Most people saw her optimism as foolishness, her willingness to give second chances as weakness. But this man, this virtual stranger, had seen something deeper in just a few minutes. "What about you?" she asked, surprising herself with her boldness. "What's your dangerous combination?" Ted's expression grew thoughtful, and for a moment she caught a glimpse of something complex behind those blue eyes, something that looked almost like longing. "I fix things that are broken," he said quietly. "Cars mostly, but I've learned that the most important things can't be fixed with tools. Sometimes they just need someone who believes they're worth saving." The words hung between them like a bridge neither of them had expected to build. Amelia felt her carefully constructed walls trembling, and for the first time in months she wondered if maybe, just maybe, she was ready to let someone try to cross that bridge. But as Ted's phone buzzed and he glanced at it with an expression she couldn't quite read, Amelia had no idea that the man sitting across from her was living a lie that would either save them both or destroy everything they were about to build together. The most beautiful connections happen when we least expect them. 2 hours had passed like minutes. The coffee shop had filled and emptied twice, But neither Amelia nor Ted seemed to notice. Her sketch pad lay forgotten on the table between them, replaced by animated conversation and genuine laughter that echoed through the cozy space. "So you're telling me," Amelia said, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes, "that you actually tried to fix your neighbor's washing machine with duct tape and good intentions?" Ted grinned sheepishly, running his hand through his dark hair, a gesture she was beginning to recognize as his tell when he was embarrassed. "In my defense, duct tape fixes most things. I just hadn't encountered a washing machine with trust issues before." "Trust issues?" Amelia giggled, the sound light and musical. She hadn't laughed like this in months. "It wouldn't start unless you whispered sweet nothings to it first. Mrs. Patterson swore by it. Said her late husband used to sweet-talk all their appliances." Ted's expression softened. "She's 83 and lives alone. I couldn't just tell her she needed a new machine." Something warm bloomed in Amelia's chest. Here was a man who spent his Saturday afternoons helping elderly neighbors, who saw the world through kind eyes. So different from the last guy she'd dated, a finance bro who'd calculated the tip on their dinner date to the exact penny and complained about wasting money on her birthday gift. "That's actually really sweet," she said, meaning it. "Not everyone would go to that much trouble for a neighbor. Family doesn't always share DNA," Ted said quietly, his slate blue eyes meeting hers. "Sometimes the people who matter most are the ones who choose to care about you." The words hit deeper than he probably intended. Amelia thought about her mother back in Ohio, battling cancer with the same stubborn determination she'd raised her daughter with, about working 2 teaching jobs just to help with medical bills while keeping her own head above water, about feeling alone in a city full of people. "I should probably warn you," Ted continued, his voice taking on a nervous edge. "I come with some extra baggage. I have a 6-year-old daughter, Charlotte. She's pretty much my whole world." Instead of the usual anxiety that talk of children brought, the fear of complicated exes and divided attention, Amelia felt something different. Curiosity, maybe even excitement. "Tell me about her," she said, leaning forward. Ted's entire face transformed. The careful guardedness melted away, replaced by pure paternal pride. He pulled out his phone, and Amelia expected to see the usual generic photos parents showed. Instead, she saw a picture that made her heart skip. A little girl with golden curls and eyes like her father's, but brighter somehow. She was wearing a paint-splattered apron that was 3 sizes too big, holding up a canvas covered in handprints of every color. Her grin was missing 2 front teeth and her eyes sparkled with pure joy. "That's from her art class last month," Ted said, his voice soft with love. "She insisted on wearing my work shirt as an apron. Said it would give her magic painting powers because I fix things. So maybe she could fix colors." Amelia's breath caught. "She takes art classes? Every Saturday morning at the community center on 5th Street. She's obsessed with making things beautiful. Last week she spent an hour arranging rocks in our backyard because she said they looked lonely." Ted paused, studying Amelia's expression. "I know it's a lot to take in on a first date. Most women hear single dad and suddenly remember they have somewhere else to be. Most women are idiots," Amelia said without thinking, then blushed furiously. I teach art to kids her age, at Jefferson Elementary, and I also teach weekend classes at the community center on 5th Street. Ted's eyes widened. "You're kidding. Scout's honor, though I was never actually a scout." Amelia felt that flutter again, stronger this time. "What's her favorite medium? Watercolors, crayons, finger paints. The messier, the better. She says rules are for people who forgot how to have fun." Ted's laugh was rich and warm. "She's going to love you." The words hung in the air between them, loaded with possibility and hope. Amelia felt her walls trembling again, and this time she didn't try to shore them up. "I'd like to meet her," she heard herself saying. If you think that would be okay." Ted's smile could have powered the entire coffee shop. "How do you feel about playgrounds? There's one a few blocks from here. Charlotte's with her. With my ex today, but she gets dropped off at my place around 4. We usually go to the park before dinner." Amelia glanced at her watch. 3:15. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "I'd love that," she whispered. As they stood to leave, Ted's phone buzzed again. This time his expression shifted, just for a moment, into something that looked almost like panic. But when he looked back at her, his smile was genuine and warm. What Amelia didn't see was the name on his screen. Evangeline. Charlotte coming early. Car trouble. Can you pick her up from the Four Seasons Hotel downtown? Some secrets, Ted realized, were about to become much harder to keep. Some hearts recognize each other before their minds catch up. The Four Seasons hotel lobby felt like stepping into another world. Amelia tried not to gawk at the marble floors and crystal chandeliers as she walked beside Ted, who seemed oddly comfortable navigating the opulent space. Her simple cardigan suddenly felt inadequate among the designer clothes and expensive watches surrounding them. "Your ex stays here?" she whispered, her Virgo mind automatically calculating what a single night must cost. Ted's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "It's complicated. Evangeline likes nice things." Before Amelia could process the implications, a small voice called out across the lobby, "Daddy!" A blur of golden curls and energy launched itself toward them. Charlotte Grace, though Ted had never mentioned her last name, was even more beautiful in person. She wore a pristine white dress that probably cost more than Amelia's monthly grocery budget, but her sneakers were untied, and her hair was escaping its careful braids. "Hey, sunshine," Ted said, catching her in a bear hug that lifted her clean off the ground. The love in his voice was so pure it made Amelia's chest ache. "How was your day with Mom?" "Boring," Charlotte announced matter-of-factly. "She had meetings and phone calls, so I watched cartoons with the babysitter. But look," she dug into her small purse and pulled out a smooth, heart-shaped stone. "I found this in the hotel garden. It's special because it looks like love. It's beautiful, baby girl." Ted's voice was soft as he examined the stone seriously. "We'll add it to your collection at home." Charlotte's bright blue eyes suddenly focused on Amelia, and for a moment, the little girl went perfectly still. Amelia held her breath, remembering every awkward encounter she'd had with her ex-boyfriend's children. The polite but distant hellos, the way kids seemed to sense when someone was temporary. "You're pretty," Charlotte said finally, tilting her head with the unfiltered honesty only children possessed. "Are you Daddy's friend?" "I'm Amelia," she said, crouching down to Charlotte's eye level. "And yes, I'm your dad's friend. He told me you're an artist." Charlotte's face lit up like Christmas morning. "I am. I paint and draw and make sculptures with Play-Doh. Do you like art?" "I love art. I'm actually an art teacher." "Really?" Charlotte bounced on her toes. "Can you teach me something new? Daddy tries, but he's better at fixing cars than making pretty things." "Hey," Ted protested with mock indignation. "I made you that birdhouse last month." "Daddy, it was crooked," Charlotte giggled. "The birds probably got dizzy living in it." Amelia burst out laughing, and Charlotte beamed at the sound. There was something magnetic about this child, an old soul wrapped in 6-year-old enthusiasm. She reminded Amelia of herself at that age when the world was full of possibilities and art could fix anything. "Charlotte, darling, there you are." The voice cut through their laughter like ice. Amelia looked up to see a woman approaching, tall, blonde, and so perfectly put together she looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. This had to be Evangeline. Her green eyes swept over Amelia with the kind of assessment that made her feel like a specimen under a microscope. "Mom," Charlotte's enthusiasm dimmed noticeably. "This is Amelia. She's an art teacher." "How nice." Evangeline's smile was sharp as crystal. "Theodore, I need to speak with you privately about the custody arrangements." Amelia saw Ted's shoulders tense. "Theodore?" She'd assumed Ted was short for Theodore, but hearing it spoken so formally made something twist in her stomach. "Can it wait?" Ted's voice was carefully controlled. "We were just heading to the park." "I'm afraid not. My lawyer needs some documents signed." Evangeline's gaze flicked to Amelia again. "I'm sure your friend won't mind waiting." The dismissal stung, but Amelia kept her expression neutral. She'd dealt with judgmental parents before, the ones who looked at her second-hand clothes and assumed she couldn't possibly provide their precious children with a quality education. "Actually," Charlotte piped up, slipping her small hand into Amelia's, "can Amelia come with us to talk? She has nice eyes, like the pretty stones I collect." "Sweetheart," Evangeline's voice carried a sharp edge. "Adults need to have private conversations sometimes." "It's okay," Amelia said quickly, not wanting to cause more tension. "I can wait in the cafe." "No," Ted said firmly, his protective instincts clearly kicking in. "Evangeline, whatever you need to discuss can happen another time. Charlotte and I have plans." Something flickered in Evangeline's eyes, something that looked like calculation. "Of course. Family time is so important." She bent down to kiss Charlotte's cheek, her movements perfect and practiced. "Be good for Daddy, darling. Mommy loves you." As Evangeline glided away on her designer heels, Charlotte squeezed Amelia's hand tighter. "I like you better than her fancy friends," she whispered conspiratorially. You smell like crayons and kindness. Amelia's heart melted completely. But as they walked toward the exit, she couldn't shake the feeling that Evangeline's parting look held a promise. And it wasn't a friendly one. Magic happens when three hearts beat in perfect harmony. Lincoln Park was alive with the sounds of childhood, laughter echoing from the playground, the rhythmic squeak of swings, and the delighted shrieks of kids discovering the joy of simply being young. Amelia sat cross-legged on a picnic blanket, watching Charlotte demonstrate her super special monkey bar technique, while Ted pushed an empty swing nearby, his eyes never leaving his daughter. "Watch this, Amelia," Charlotte called out, hanging upside down from the monkey bars, her golden curls cascading toward the ground. "I'm a bat, a very artistic bat." "Careful, sunshine," Ted warned, but his tone was more affectionate than worried. Artistic bats still need to keep their heads attached. Amelia laughed, pulling out her sketchbook. "Hold that pose for just a second, Charlotte. I want to capture this." Her pencil moved quickly across the page, sketching the pure joy on Charlotte's face, the way the afternoon light caught in her hair, the complete trust in her father's watchful presence. This was what childhood should look like, wild and free and beautiful. "You draw fast," Charlotte observed, dropping down to run over and peek at the sketch. Her eyes went wide. "That's me. But I look like a princess." "You are a princess," Amelia said softly. "The kind who climbs monkey bars and collects special stones and makes the world brighter just by being in it." Charlotte beamed, then suddenly threw her arms around Amelia's neck in a spontaneous hug that smelled like sunshine and strawberry shampoo. "Can I draw you too?" "I'd be honored." Ted settled down on the blanket beside them, close enough that Amelia could smell his cologne, something woody and masculine that made her pulse quicken. She was hyper-aware of his presence, the way his sleeve brushed against her arm, how his laugh rumbled deep in his chest when Charlotte announced she was going to draw Amelia as a rainbow fairy with teaching powers. "She doesn't usually warm up to people this quickly," Ted said quietly, his voice carrying a note of wonder. "You're good with her." "She makes it easy," Amelia replied, watching Charlotte carefully select crayons from the box Ted had produced from seemingly nowhere. "She has such a pure heart. You can see it in everything she does." "She gets that from her mother," Ted said, then caught himself. "I mean, not Evangeline. Her biological mother died when Charlotte was 2. Cancer." Amelia's heart clenched. "Ted, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. Evangeline married me 6 months later," he continued, his voice carefully neutral. "Said Charlotte needed a mother figure. I thought I was doing the right thing for Charlotte, giving her stability." The pieces began forming a picture that made Amelia's chest tight with understanding. A grieving widower, a motherless child, and a woman who saw an opportunity. She wanted to reach for his hand, to offer comfort, but something held her back. "Look!" Charlotte interrupted, holding up her drawing with pride. "It's you teaching art to a whole rainbow of kids." The drawing was beautifully chaotic in the way only children's art could be. Stick figures in impossible colors, hearts floating in the sky, and in the center, a figure with brown hair and a huge smile, surrounded by tiny hands reaching up toward her. "Charlotte, this is incredible," Amelia breathed. "You captured something really special here." "Can I keep it?" Ted asked, his voice strangely thick. "For my collection of Charlotte's masterpieces?" "Only if Amelia signs it too," Charlotte declared, "like real artists do." As Amelia carefully signed her name next to Charlotte's, she felt something shift inside her chest. This felt like family. This felt like home. The thought should have terrified her. She'd known them for exactly 1 day. But instead, it filled her with a warmth she hadn't felt in years. "I'm hungry," Charlotte announced, flopping dramatically onto the blanket. "Can we get ice cream, please? Pretty please with art supplies on top?" "Art supplies on top?" Ted chuckled. "That's a new one. It's better than cherries," Charlotte explained with 6-year-old logic. "You can't make pretty things with cherries." "Ice cream it is," Ted said, starting to pack up their things. "There's a place a few blocks away that has 27 flavors." 27? Amelia's eyes widened. "How do you even choose?" "You don't," Charlotte said seriously. "You ask for a taste of everything and then pick the one that makes your heart happy." As they walked toward the ice cream shop, Charlotte skipping between them and occasionally grabbing both their hands to swing from their arms, Amelia felt something she hadn't experienced in her 29 years of life. She felt like she belonged. But 3 blocks away, Evangeline sat in her Mercedes, photographing them through her telephoto lens, her perfectly manicured fingers already dialing her lawyer's number. Some people, she thought with a cold smile, needed to learn their place. Trust is built one moment at a time, but it can shatter in an instant. 3 weeks had passed since that magical afternoon in the park, and Amelia's life had transformed in ways she never imagined possible. Her small apartment, once a sanctuary of solitude, now echoed with Charlotte's laughter during their weekend art sessions. The refrigerator was covered with their collaborative masterpieces, watercolor flowers, finger-painted rainbows, and Charlotte's latest obsession, portraits of my new family. Amelia stood in front of her bathroom mirror, applying a light layer of mascara before their Saturday morning ritual. Ted had started picking her up for Charlotte's art classes at the community center, and somehow those 2 hours had become the highlight of her week. She'd chosen a soft lavender sweater that brought out her eyes and her favorite jeans, casual enough for paint splatters, nice enough for the man who made her heart skip beats. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ted. Running 5 minutes late. Charlotte insisted on bringing you something special. Fair warning. It involves glitter. Amelia grinned, unconsciously humming one of the melodies she'd been working on, a gentle tune that seemed to appear whenever she thought about them. These past weeks had felt like living in a beautiful dream. Ted was everything she'd hoped for in a partner, attentive without being possessive, funny without being cruel, and the way he loved Charlotte made Amelia fall a little deeper every day. The knock on her door came exactly 5 minutes later, followed by Charlotte's voice. "Amelia, open up, I made you something super-duper special." Amelia opened the door to find Charlotte practically vibrating with excitement, holding a wrapped package that was significantly larger than her small hands could properly manage. Ted stood behind her, his hair slightly mussed and a coffee stain on his shirt, evidence that their morning had been delightfully chaotic. "Someone was up at 6 a.m. working on your gift," Ted said, his eyes warm with affection. "I tried to convince her that normal people sleep past sunrise on weekends. Normal people don't have best friends to make presents for," Charlotte declared, pushing past Amelia into the apartment. "Can I give it to her now, Daddy, please?" "Of course, sunshine." Charlotte thrust the package into Amelia's hands, with the kind of ceremony usually reserved for royal ceremonies. Inside layers of tissue paper and tape was a handmade picture frame, decorated with every color of glitter known to mankind, small shells, and what appeared to be macaroni-painted gold. "I made it for our family picture," Charlotte announced proudly. "The one from the ice cream shop last weekend." Amelia's breath caught. The photo showed the three of them outside Scoops and Dreams, Charlotte perched on Ted's shoulders while Amelia laughed at something he'd said. They looked like a real family, like they belonged together. "Charlotte, this is the most beautiful frame I've ever seen," Amelia said, her voice thick with emotion. "But are you sure you want me to have the family picture?" "Duh," Charlotte said with 6-year-old exasperation. "You're part of our family now, Daddy said so." Amelia's eyes flew to Ted's face, searching for confirmation or denial. Instead, she found something that made her pulse race. Hope, affection, and what looked like the same terrifying joy she'd been carrying in her chest for weeks. "I may have mentioned that you feel like family to us," Ted said softly, stepping closer. If that's okay with you." Before Amelia could respond, her phone rang. The caller ID made her stomach drop. Jefferson Elementary School. On a Saturday morning, that could only mean one thing. "I'm sorry, I have to take this," she said, answering quickly. "Hello? Amelia, it's Principal Morrison. I'm so sorry to call you on the weekend, but we've had a situation. Someone called the school district office yesterday, making allegations about your personal conduct. They're requiring a formal investigation." The blood drained from Amelia's face. "What kind of allegations?" "Something about inappropriate relationships and moral fitness to teach children. I know it's ridiculous, but the district has to follow protocol. You'll need to meet with the review board Monday morning." Amelia's hand trembled as she ended the call. Her teaching job, her passion, her livelihood, her identity, was under attack. But how? Why? "Mel, what's wrong?" Ted was beside her immediately, his hand warm on her shoulder. "Someone reported me to the school district," she whispered. "They're questioning my fitness to teach." Charlotte, who had been arranging her art supplies, looked up with worry creasing her small features. "Are you in trouble, Amelia? Did someone hurt you?" Before Amelia could answer, Ted's phone buzzed. His expression changed as he read the message, and Amelia watched something like fear flicker across his features. "I have to go," he said abruptly, his voice tight. "Evangeline's lawyer wants to meet. Emergency custody hearing scheduled for Monday." The timing was too perfect to be coincidental. As realization dawned, Amelia felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Someone was systematically destroying their happiness. one carefully aimed blow at a time. Sometimes the cruelest wounds are inflicted by those who smile while they strike. The Jefferson Elementary conference room felt smaller than usual, as Amelia sat across from three stern-faced district officials, her hands folded carefully in her lap to hide their trembling. She'd chosen her most conservative outfit, a navy blazer over a white blouse, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, hoping to project the professionalism that had defined her 5-year teaching career. "Miss Montgomery," said Dr. Patricia Hensley, the district's human resources director, her voice crisp and impersonal. "We've received concerning reports about your personal conduct and its potential impact on your role as an educator." Amelia's throat felt dry as sandpaper. "Could you be more specific about these allegations?" Dr. Hensley consulted her notes with theatrical precision. "An anonymous source has provided photographs and testimony, suggesting you've been engaging in inappropriate relationships that call into question your moral fitness to work with children." "Inappropriate relationships?" Amelia's voice cracked slightly. "I don't understand." "Specifically involvement with a married man and his child, potentially using your position as an educator to gain access to vulnerable families." Dr. Hensley's words fell like stones. "The source also suggests you may be targeting wealthy single fathers for financial gain." The accusations hit Amelia like physical blows. Each word seemed designed to twist her relationship with Ted and Charlotte into something sordid and calculating. Her Virgo mind immediately began analyzing the attack. The careful timing, the strategic targeting of her deepest insecurities about being used or seen as an opportunist. "That's completely false," Amelia said, finding her voice. "I'm in a relationship with a single father, yes, but there's nothing inappropriate about it. We met through mutual friends, not through my work." "The source indicates otherwise," Dr. Hensley continued relentlessly. "They claim you deliberately sought out this relationship for financial gain, particularly troubling given that you've been seen frequenting expensive establishments you couldn't normally afford. The Four Seasons. Someone had been watching, documenting, building a case designed to destroy her credibility." Amelia's stomach churned as she realized how carefully orchestrated this attack was. "Who made these allegations?" Amelia asked, though she suspected she already knew. "Anonymous tips are protected, Miss Montgomery. However, the evidence provided is quite compelling. Photographs, witness statements, documentation of your financial struggles." Dr. Hensley's smile was sharp as a blade. "We simply cannot ignore concerns about a teacher's moral character." 45 minutes later, Amelia sat in her car in the school parking lot, staring at the official letter in her hands. Suspended pending investigation. Her teaching certificate under review. 5 years of dedicated service reduced to a bureaucratic nightmare based on lies and manipulation. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ted. "Custody hearing was brutal. Evangeline has photos, witness statements. Claims I'm unfit because of my relationship choices. Need to see you tonight." Amelia's blood ran cold. The attacks weren't random. They were coordinated. Evangeline wasn't just trying to destroy their relationship. She was systematically dismantling their entire lives. Another text arrived, this one from an unknown number. "Some people should know their place. Stay away from what doesn't belong to you, or this gets much worse. A concerned friend." The threat was crystal clear, but something in Amelia's chest hardened instead of breaking. She thought about Charlotte's drawing still hanging on her refrigerator, about the little girl who called her family, about Ted's gentle hands and honest eyes. Evangeline wanted a war? She was about to discover that attacking a teacher's livelihood and threatening a child's happiness was a battle she wouldn't win easily. Amelia started her car, her jaw set with determination. She had 16 hours until Ted's custody hearing, and she was done being a victim. It was time to fight back. But as she pulled out of the parking lot, she didn't notice the black Mercedes following at a careful distance, or the telephoto lens capturing her every movement. Evangeline Westbrook had spent years perfecting the art of destruction, and she was just getting started. Truth has a way of surfacing, even when buried beneath layers of lies. Ted's apartment was nothing like Amelia had expected. She'd imagined something modest, befitting a mechanic's salary. Second-hand furniture, mismatched plates, the comfortable chaos of a single father's life. Instead, she found herself standing in a space that whispered of understated elegance. Hardwood floors that gleamed like mirrors, a kitchen with granite countertops, and original artwork that probably cost more than her annual salary. "This is... wow," she said softly, trying to reconcile the man she'd fallen for with the obvious wealth surrounding her. Ted ran his hand through his hair. that nervous gesture she'd grown to recognize, and his face was a map of guilt and fear. "Amelia, we need to talk. There are things I should have told you from the beginning." Charlotte emerged from what Amelia assumed was her bedroom, dragging a stuffed elephant behind her. The little girl's usual brightness was dimmed, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. "Daddy, is Amelia really going away forever?" Charlotte's voice was small and broken. "Mommy Evangeline said mean people try to steal other people's families." Amelia's heart shattered at the pain in Charlotte's voice. She knelt down, opening her arms, and Charlotte immediately launched herself into them. "I'm not going anywhere if I can help it, sweetheart," Amelia whispered into Charlotte's golden curls. "No one can steal love. Love isn't something you can take. It's something you give." "But Mommy Evangeline showed me pictures on her phone," Charlotte sniffled. "She said you're just pretending to like us because we have money, and when you get bored you'll leave like all the other ladies who tried to be my new mommy." The cruelty of using a 6-year-old as a weapon made Amelia's vision blur with rage. But before she could respond, Ted's voice cut through the room like a knife. "Charlotte, go to your room for a few minutes, okay? Amelia and I need to have a grown-up conversation." After Charlotte reluctantly disappeared down the hallway, Ted turned to face Amelia, and she saw something in his expression that made her stomach drop. "My name isn't Ted," he said quietly. "It's Thaddeus James Whitmore III. I'm not a mechanic. I'm the CEO of Whitmore Industries." The words hit her like a physical blow. Whitmore Industries. She'd seen their name on buildings throughout the city, heard about their tech innovations on the news. This wasn't just wealth, this was generational money, the kind that came with power and influence. "You lied to me," she whispered, the betrayal cutting deeper than any of Evangeline's attacks. "For 3 weeks, you looked me in the eye and lied to me. I wanted you to know the real me," Ted said desperately. "Not the trust fund, not the company, not the expectations. Just me, the man who fixes things, who loves his daughter, who found something beautiful with you. But that's not who you are." Amelia's voice cracked with pain. "You're exactly what Evangeline said. A rich man playing games with people who can't afford to lose. That's not true, and you know it." Ted stepped closer, his blue eyes pleading. "What we have is real. Charlotte's love for you is real. My feelings for you are real." "Your feelings?" Amelia laughed bitterly. "How can I believe anything you say? You've been lying since the moment we met. The coffee shop, the park, the ice cream. Was any of it genuine, or was I just entertainment for a bored billionaire?" "Every moment was genuine," Ted said fiercely. "I may have lied about my job, but I never lied about my feelings. I'm in love with you, Amelia. Completely, terrifyingly in love with you." The confession she'd dreamed of hearing now felt like another manipulation. Amelia wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hold the pieces of her heart together. "Evangeline was right," she said, her voice hollow. "I don't belong in your world. I teach elementary school art and live paycheck to paycheck. You have more money than I'll see in 10 lifetimes. How could this ever work?" "Because love doesn't have a price tag," Ted said softly. "Because Charlotte lights up when you walk into a room. Because you make me want to be better than the man my grandfather's money created." Before Amelia could respond, the doorbell rang. Ted frowned, glancing at his watch. "I'm not expecting anyone." He opened the door to reveal a process server, official documents in hand. "Theodore Whitmore, you're being served with an emergency restraining order. Miss Evangeline Westbrook claims you've been making threatening contact regarding custody arrangements." As Ted accepted the papers, Amelia felt the final piece of her world crumble. Even his legal name was a lie. "I have to go," she whispered, grabbing her purse. "Amelia, please." "I can't." She was already at the door, tears streaming down her face. "I need time to think. I need to figure out who you really are." And as the door closed behind her, neither of them noticed Charlotte standing in the hallway, her small fist clutched around her special heart-shaped stone, silently making a wish that her family wouldn't break apart. Sometimes the smallest voices carry the most powerful truths. 2 weeks of silence stretched between them like an ocean. Amelia sat in her small apartment surrounded by job applications and legal documents, her teaching career hanging by a thread while lawyers dissected her character. The glitter-covered picture frame Charlotte had made still sat on her coffee table, but she'd turned the photo face down. It hurt too much to see their happiness frozen in time. Her phone buzzed constantly with unknown numbers, reporters who'd somehow gotten wind of the scandal, as the local news had dubbed it. Elementary teacher in custody battle with tech billionaire, had become the kind of story that sold papers and generated clicks. Amelia had stopped answering calls altogether. The knock on her door came at sunset, soft and hesitant. Through the peephole, she saw Cassidy holding takeout bags and wearing her most determined expression. "I brought Thai food and tissues," Cassidy announced when Amelia opened the door. "And I'm not leaving until you eat something and tell me what really happened." "Cass, I can't." "You can, and you will." Cassidy pushed past her into the apartment, her eyes taking in the mess of papers, empty coffee cups, and general despair. "Honey, you look like you haven't slept in days." Amelia sank onto her couch, suddenly exhausted. "He lied to me about everything. His name, his job, his entire life. How do I trust someone who built our entire relationship on deception?" "Did he lie about loving you?" Cassidy asked gently, unpacking containers of pad thai and spring rolls. "I don't know," Amelia whispered. "How can I tell what's real anymore?" Before Cassidy could respond, another knock echoed through the apartment. This one was different, urgent, desperate, accompanied by a small voice that made Amelia's heart stop. "Amelia, please, I know you're in there." "Charlotte." Amelia yanked open the door to find the little girl standing in the hallway, tear-streaked and clutching her stuffed elephant. She was wearing pajamas and sneakers, her golden curls wild from running. "Charlotte, what are you doing here? Where's your father?" "He's at the courthouse with the lawyers," Charlotte sobbed, throwing herself into Amelia's arms. "But I snuck out because nobody listens to me and you're the only one who can fix this." "Sweetheart, you can't just run away." "I didn't run away." Charlotte pulled back, her blue eyes blazing with 6-year-old determination. "I came to save my family." Cassidy appeared behind Amelia, her expression shifting from curiosity to concern. "Should I call someone?" "Daddy's phone," Charlotte said, digging the device out of her pajama pocket. "I borrowed it. He has meetings all day trying to keep me. But Mommy Evangeline keeps telling lies about him and about you, and nobody asked me what I want." Amelia's hands shook as she took the phone. 17 missed calls, dozens of text messages. Ted was probably frantic. "Charlotte, honey, your daddy must be worried sick." "Good." Charlotte stamped her small foot. "Maybe now he'll listen. I told him at breakfast that I want to live with you both, but grown-ups never listen to kids even when we're telling the truth." The simple words hit Amelia like lightning. Here was a 6-year-old girl who had walked through a city alone because the adults in her life were too busy fighting to hear what she was really saying. "What do you mean, telling the truth?" Amelia asked gently, kneeling to Charlotte's eye level. "Mommy Evangeline is mean to me when Daddy's not around," Charlotte whispered, fresh tears spilling over. "She says I'm a burden and that she only married Daddy for his money. She talks on the phone about how she's going to get lots of money when she wins, and then she'll send me to boarding school so she doesn't have to deal with me anymore." Amelia's blood ran cold. "Charlotte, has she ever hurt you?" "Not hitting hurt," Charlotte said carefully. "But she locks me in my room when I cry for my real mommy, and she throws away my drawings when they mess up her perfect house. And yesterday," Charlotte's voice dropped to a whisper, "she told me you never really loved me. She said you were just pretending because Daddy pays you to be nice to me." The cruelty of it made Amelia's vision blur with rage. Using a child's deepest fears as weapons was beyond unforgivable. "Charlotte, look at me," Amelia said firmly, taking the little girl's hands. "I need you to understand something very important. I love you. Not because anyone pays me to, not because I have to, but because you're brave and kind and artistic and you make the world better just by being in it. That love is real, and no one can take it away or change it." "Even though Daddy lied about his name?" Charlotte asked hopefully. "Even then," Amelia said softly, realizing the truth even as she spoke it. "Sometimes people lie because they're scared, not because they want to hurt us." Charlotte's face lit up like sunrise. "So, you'll come to court tomorrow? You'll tell the judge that you want to be my family?" Amelia looked into those trusting blue eyes and felt something steel in her chest. Evangeline wanted a war. She'd just given Amelia the ammunition to end it. Some battles, Amelia realized, were worth risking everything to win. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's loving someone more than you fear losing everything. The Pierce County Courthouse buzzed with morning activity as Amelia walked through the metal detectors, her heels clicking against marble floors that had witnessed countless family dramas. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, a navy dress that projected both professionalism and warmth, her grandmother's pearl necklace for courage, and Charlotte's handmade bracelet hidden beneath her sleeve as a reminder of what she was fighting for. Ted stood outside courtroom 3B with his legal team, 3 attorneys in expensive suits, who looked like they could buy and sell small countries. When he saw her approaching, his face transformed, relief, hope, and something that looked like desperate gratitude washing over his features. "Amelia," he breathed, stepping toward her. "You came. I'm not here for you," she said quietly, though her heart hammered at his proximity. "I'm here for Charlotte." The words stung. She could see it in his eyes, but he nodded. "That's all I can ask for." "Actually," Amelia continued, her voice stronger now, "there's something else you should know. I'm 6 weeks pregnant." Ted's world tilted. His face went through a dozen emotions in as many seconds: shock, joy, fear, and finally, fierce protectiveness. "Amelia, Miss Montgomery?" A court clerk appeared at her elbow. "The judge would like to speak with you in chambers before proceedings begin." Judge Helena Martinez was a woman in her 50s with kind but sharp eyes, the kind of person who'd probably seen every family court trick in the book. Her chambers were lined with law books and family photos, creating an atmosphere of both authority and warmth. "Miss Montgomery, I understand you wish to testify on behalf of the petitioner?" Judge Martinez consulted her notes. "Despite the restraining order filed against you?" "Your Honor, that restraining order was based on false allegations. I have documentation proving that the complaints against both myself and Mr. Whitmore were orchestrated by his ex-wife." Amelia placed a folder on the judge's desk with hands that barely trembled. "Including recordings of Mrs. Westbrook admitting to bribing witnesses and fabricating evidence." Judge Martinez's eyebrows rose. "These are serious allegations, Miss Montgomery." "Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Westbrook made the mistake of confiding in someone she thought was an ally, the private investigator she hired. He came forward yesterday when he learned a child's welfare was at stake. 20 minutes later, they returned to the courtroom where Evangeline sat with her own legal team, her designer suit and perfect makeup, a stark contrast to the pale fury in her green eyes. Charlotte sat in the front row between 2 social workers, her small legs swinging nervously, her lucky stone clutched in her hand. "Your Honor," began Evangeline's lead attorney, "my client simply wants what's best for her daughter. Mr. Whitmore's pattern of deception and poor judgment in romantic partners clearly demonstrates—" "Objection," interrupted Ted's lawyer. "The allegations against Miss Montgomery have been proven false." Judge Martinez held up her hand. "I've reviewed the new evidence presented this morning. Mrs. Westbrook, I'm particularly disturbed by the recordings in which you discussed treating Charlotte as a burden and your plans to send her to boarding school against her father's wishes." Evangeline's perfect composure cracked. "Those recordings are taken out of context. Furthermore," Judge Martinez continued, "your attempts to destroy Miss Montgomery's career and reputation through false allegations constitute criminal behavior that will be referred to the district attorney's office." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Evangeline's face went white as her attorney frantically shuffled papers. "However," Judge Martinez said, raising her voice, "what matters most in this courtroom is the welfare of Charlotte Grace Whitmore. Charlotte, would you like to tell me what you want?" Charlotte stood up on her chair, her golden curls catching the afternoon light streaming through the tall windows. For a moment she looked exactly like the brave little princess Amelia had drawn her as that first day in the park. "I want to live with my daddy," Charlotte said clearly, her voice carrying the simple honesty only children possessed. "And I want Amelia to be my new mommy, because she loves me even when I'm messy and loud, and she teaches me how to make beautiful things instead of telling me to be quiet." "And what about Mrs. Westbrook?" Judge Martinez asked gently. Charlotte's expression grew thoughtful. "I think Mommy Evangeline forgot how to love people instead of money. Maybe she needs art classes too, so she can remember how to make beautiful things instead of breaking them." The wisdom in those words, delivered without malice or hatred, brought tears to more than one eye in the courtroom. Even Evangeline seemed stunned by her stepdaughter's forgiveness. Judge Martinez smiled for the first time that day. "Charlotte, that's very wise, and very kind." As the judge prepared to render her decision, Amelia felt Ted's hand slip into hers. This time she didn't pull away. "Whatever happens," he whispered, "I need you to know that meeting you was the best mistake I ever made." "It wasn't a mistake," Amelia whispered back, finally understanding the truth that had taken her 6 weeks to see. "It was fate." And in that moment, with Charlotte's laughter echoing through the courtroom as the judge smiled, Amelia knew that some families were worth fighting for, no matter the cost. Love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about choosing to see the beauty in someone's imperfections. The setting sun painted the sky in watercolors of pink and gold, as Amelia stood in the backyard of what was now their home, watching Charlotte arrange her special stone collection in elaborate patterns around the base of the oak tree. 6 months had passed since the custody hearing, and the little girl had blossomed like a flower finally given proper soil and sunshine. The heart-shaped one goes in the middle, Charlotte explained to her baby brother, who was currently more interested in trying to eat grass than listening to his big sister's geological theories. Because love is the most important magic, right, buddy? Baby Samuel Theodore, Sammy, as Charlotte had dubbed him, gurgled happily from his blanket, his chubby fists reaching toward the colorful stones. At 3 months old, he already had his father's blue eyes and what Amelia suspected would be Charlotte's fearless spirit. 5 more minutes, sunshine, Ted called from the kitchen window, where he was putting the finishing touches on dinner. Amelia's been cooking all day and we don't want her masterpiece to get cold. Amelia laughed, adjusting Sammy on her hip. I made spaghetti and garlic bread, not a masterpiece. Everything you make is a masterpiece, Charlotte declared with 6-year-old certainty. Even your messy hair in the morning is artistic. The sound of the doorbell interrupted their family tableau. Ted appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel, his expression puzzled. I'm not expecting anyone. Through the window, they could see a familiar figure on the front porch. Evangeline, but not the perfectly polished version they remembered. This woman looked smaller somehow. Her designer clothes had been replaced with simple jeans and a sweater. Her platinum hair had grown out to show natural brown roots, and her face was free of the heavy makeup that had once been her armor. Ted's protective instincts immediately kicked in. I'll handle this, he said firmly. No, Amelia said quietly, surprising everyone, including herself. Let her in. Amelia, she's still Charlotte's stepmother, Amelia said, though her heart hammered with old fears. And Charlotte has a right to see her if she wants to. Charlotte looked between the adults, her young face serious. Is she still mean? I don't know, sweetheart, Amelia said honestly, but we're strong enough to find out together. When Ted opened the door, Evangeline's carefully practiced composure crumbled. She looked at the scene before her. Ted in his favorite jeans and an old sweater. Amelia with flour still dusting her hands and baby spit up on her shoulder. Charlotte with dirt under her fingernails and joy radiating from every pore. I came to apologize, Evangeline said quietly, her voice lacking its usual calculated precision. To all of you, but especially to Charlotte. Charlotte stepped forward, still clutching one of her special stones. Did you remember how to love things instead of breaking them? The question, delivered with innocent directness, seemed to shatter something in Evangeline's chest. Tears, real ones, not the crocodile variety she'd perfected for courtrooms, spilled down her cheeks. I'm trying to learn, Evangeline whispered. I spent so long being angry and scared that I forgot how to be human. I hurt people I should have protected, and I nearly destroyed something beautiful because I couldn't stand seeing others have what I'd lost. She knelt down to Charlotte's level, her voice breaking. I'm sorry, baby girl. I'm sorry I was mean to you when you deserved nothing but love. I'm sorry I tried to take away the family that makes you happy. Charlotte studied her for a long moment, then stepped forward and placed her heart-shaped stone in Evangeline's palm. This one has a wish for happiness in it, she said solemnly. Maybe it'll help you remember how to be happy without being mean. The gesture, so purely Charlotte, so utterly forgiving, broke something open in all of them. Even Ted's eyes were suspiciously bright as he watched his daughter's enormous heart work its magic on someone who had tried to destroy their family. I don't expect forgiveness, Evangeline continued, looking at Ted and Amelia. I just wanted you to know that I'm entering therapy, and I've dropped all legal challenges. Charlotte belongs with you. She always did. As Evangeline left, clutching Charlotte's gift like a lifeline, Amelia felt a profound sense of completion. Not because their enemy had been defeated, but because love had won. The kind of love that transforms instead of conquers. Are you okay? Ted asked quietly, slipping his arms around her from behind as they watched Evangeline's car disappear down the street. Better than okay, Amelia murmured, leaning back against his chest. I'm home. That night, after Charlotte had been tucked in with her usual 3 stories and 17 stuffed animals, and Sammy was sleeping peacefully in his crib, Amelia found herself back in the garden, this time joined by Ted on the old porch swing they'd rescued from a flea market. No regrets? Ted asked, his fingers intertwined with hers. Amelia looked at their house. A real home now, filled with Charlotte's artwork, baby toys, and the comfortable chaos of a family that had chosen each other. Only one, she said. Ted's eyebrows rose in concern. I regret that it took us so long to trust what we felt from the beginning, Amelia said softly. But maybe that's what made it real. Easy love doesn't teach you anything. The love worth keeping is the kind you have to fight for. Even when that fight means facing custody battles and career sabotage and learning that your boyfriend is secretly a billionaire, Ted teased gently. Especially then, Amelia laughed. Besides, I always suspected you were hiding something. No mechanic has hands that soft. As they sat together in the gathering darkness, Charlotte's voice drifted from her bedroom window above them, singing one of the melodies Amelia hummed while painting. Their daughter, because that's what Charlotte had become in every way that mattered, had added her own words. Families aren't born. They're made of love and choice and staying even when it's hard. And in that moment, Amelia knew with absolute certainty that some things in life truly had no price. They could only be given freely, received gratefully, and protected fiercely by those brave enough to believe in forever. The most beautiful stories never really end. They just grow into new chapters. 3 years later, the community center on 5th Street had been transformed beyond recognition. What once was a simple art classroom with mismatched chairs and paint-stained tables had become the Amelia Whitmore Foundation for Creative Hearts, a bright, welcoming space where children from all backgrounds could explore their artistic talents without worrying about the cost. Amelia stood at the window of her new office watching 9-year-old Charlotte lead a group of kindergarteners through their first finger painting experience. Her stepdaughter, officially adopted 2 years ago in a ceremony that had Charlotte designing her own adoption certificate with glitter and rainbows, had inherited not just her artistic eye, but also her generous heart. Miss Charlotte, called out a 5-year-old with paint-covered hands, "My flowers don't look like real flowers. That's because they're magical flowers," Charlotte explained with the patient wisdom of someone who'd learned that art was about feeling, not perfection. Real flowers can only grow in dirt, but magical flowers can grow anywhere love lives. Amelia smiled, remembering her own first art teacher saying something similar. Some truths, it seemed, were worth passing down through generations. "Mama Mel," 3-year-old Sammy burst through the office door, his chubby legs carrying him as fast as they could manage. His overalls were decorated with what appeared to be every color in the rainbow, and his grin was pure mischief. "Look what I made." He held up a piece of construction paper that was more glue than actual craft project, but his pride was so evident that Amelia's heart melted all over again. "Tell me about it, buddy." "It's our family," Sammy declared, pointing to stick figures that only made sense through a toddler's eyes. "There's Daddy and you and Charlotte and me and baby Lucy and even great-grandma Rose." Baby Lucy, now 6 months old and napping in her carrier, was their newest addition, a surprise that had sent Charlotte into ecstatic big sister mode and convinced Sammy that he was now the middle kid expert. Their daughter had Ted's determined chin and Amelia's artistic soul, if the way she grabbed for paintbrushes was any indication. "It's perfect," Amelia said, meaning it completely. "Should we hang it in the gallery with Charlotte's first painting?" The gallery wall in their home had become a shrine to their children's creativity. From Charlotte's earliest finger paintings to Sammy's recent obsession with sculptural macaroni art. Ted insisted on professionally framing each piece, claiming their refrigerator gallery was museum quality. "Mrs. Whitmore," a volunteer peeked through the door. "There's someone here to see you. She says it's about the scholarship program." Amelia nodded, kissing Sammy's paint-sticky cheek before following the volunteer to the main classroom. She stopped short when she saw who was waiting for her. Evangeline stood near the entrance. But this version was so different from the woman who'd once tried to destroy their family that Amelia sometimes forgot they were the same person. Gone were the designer clothes and perfect makeup, replaced by comfortable jeans, a paint-splattered sweater, and a genuine smile that reached her eyes. She was holding the hand of a little girl who couldn't have been more than 5, with dark curls and shy brown eyes. "Amelia," Evangeline said softly, "I hope you don't mind us dropping by. I wanted you to meet Maya. She's my foster daughter. I thought maybe she'd like to try one of your art classes." The transformation still amazed Amelia. After that day 3 years ago, Evangeline had done more than apologize. She'd completely rebuilt her life. Therapy had led to volunteer work, which had led to foster care certification, which had led to Maya, a little girl who'd been through the kind of trauma that made trusting adults feel impossible. "Of course," Amelia said, kneeling down to Maya's level. "I'm Amelia. Do you like to make things?" Maya nodded shyly, then whispered something to Evangeline. She wants to know if she can paint her feelings. Evangeline translated, her voice thick with emotion. Her therapist said art might help her express things that are too big for words. That's exactly what art is for, Amelia said gently. Charlotte, can you show Maya where we keep the special feelings colors? As Charlotte immediately took Maya under her wing, a natural teacher in the making, Evangeline and Amelia found themselves standing together, watching their children create magic with paint and kindness. Thank you, Evangeline said quietly, for not shutting the door when I finally figured out how to knock properly. Thank you for becoming someone worth opening it for, Amelia replied. Maya's lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one, Evangeline said, and for the first time since Amelia had known her, every word rang with absolute truth. Charlotte taught me that love isn't about ownership. It's about creating space for people to grow into who they're meant to be. The afternoon sun streamed through the tall windows, illuminating a scene that would have seemed impossible 3 years ago. Former enemies watching their children laugh together, their past conflicts transformed into wisdom that could help others heal. Ted appeared in the doorway, still in his work clothes but with Lucy's carrier over his shoulder, and an expression of pure contentment. He'd kept his promise to balance work and family, stepping back from day-to-day operations to focus on philanthropic projects and being present for bedtime stories and Saturday morning pancakes. How are my favorite artists? He asked, his voice carrying the warm exhaustion of a man who'd spent the day at a board meeting for their youth mentorship program. Daddy! Sammy launched himself at Ted's legs. I made you a picture of our family, but Mama Mel says we need a bigger piece of paper because our family keeps growing. Ted caught Amelia's eye over Sammy's head, and the look they shared was full of everything they'd learned about love, that it multiplied instead of dividing, that it could heal wounds they'd thought were permanent, that it was worth every risk they'd taken to protect it. Speaking of growing, Ted said with a grin that made Amelia's pulse quicken even after 4 years together, I got a call from the adoption agency. There's a sibling group, 3 kids who've been in the system for 2 years. They need a family who understands that love doesn't have limits. Amelia's heart stopped, then started again at double speed. Ted, I know it's crazy, he said quickly. We already have 3 kids and a foundation, and approximately 0 free time. But when I think about Charlotte, about how much joy she brought to our lives, and then I think about 3 more kids who just need someone to believe in them. Yes, Amelia said without hesitation. Absolutely, yes. Charlotte looked up from where she was helping Maya mix the perfect shade of happy yellow. Are we getting more siblings? Because I've been practicing my big sister skills and I'm getting really good at sharing art supplies. Sammy clapped his hands with delight. More kids means more art and more people to love. Even Maya smiled at that, her small hand still carefully clutching the paintbrush Charlotte had given her. As the sun set over their little corner of the world, the community center that had brought them together now expanded into something that helped hundreds of children discover their own creative voices. Amelia felt the profound truth of Charlotte's childhood wisdom. Families weren't born. They were made of love and choice and staying even when it was hard. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, your family kept growing until your heart was so full, it felt like it might burst with the beauty of it all. So, Ted said, pulling her close while their children painted masterpieces and planned adventures. Any regrets about that blind date 4 years ago? Amelia looked around at their beautiful chaos. Charlotte teaching Maya that mistakes were just opportunities for creativity. Sammy explaining his artistic vision to anyone who would listen. Lucy sleeping peacefully in the middle of it all. Evangeline learning to be the mother she'd never known how to be. And Ted, her partner in all of it, still running his hands through his hair when he was nervous but never nervous about them anymore. Just one, she said, echoing the words she'd spoken years ago on their porch swing. What's that? I regret that we can't go back and tell our younger selves that the scary leap was going to be the best decision we ever made. She smiled, thinking about all the families yet to be formed, all the children still waiting for someone to choose them, all the love still left to give. But maybe that's the point. The best things in life require a little faith. And as Charlotte's laughter echoed through the space where it all began, mixing with the sounds of children discovering that their hearts were bigger than they'd ever imagined, Amelia knew with absolute certainty that some stories were too beautiful to ever really end. They just kept growing, one chosen family at a time. The heart indeed has no price, because the most valuable things in life can only be given freely, received with gratitude, and shared endlessly with those brave enough to believe that love multiplies when divided among the people who matter most. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.